Welcome to the Onward Shift Podcast. Before we get started on this insightful conversation with an incredible guest, I want to tell you a little bit about Onward Shift. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I want to share some statistics with you. The construction industry is more than 3 times higher than the national average for suicides. And over 50% of construction workers don't feel comfortable to speak about their problems. I'm an electrician by trade. I've worked on those building sites. I completely understand how it feels to be a contractor, almost claustrophobic in your feelings. Onward Shift isn't just a podcast. It isn't just a company. It's a movement to support the industry I truly love. Let's get into the episode. Hello, and welcome to Onward Shifts Podcast. Today, we're fortunate enough to have Rob with us. Hi, Rob. How are you?
Hi, Vish. I'm good. Thanks for.
No, honestly, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. I know it's late in the evening, and you've kindly taken a bit of time out to express to us your feelings about the construction industry. You've also had an accident, and we want to focus on the youth, the up and comers as well. So I'm really, really, really excited about this podcast. And yeah, honestly, thank you so much for being here. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what was your upbringing like? How did you get into construction? Like, what's the story there?
Well, I'm from East London originally, from East Ham. Slowly moved out further, like all the East Enders, slowly moved further and further out into Essex. I'm now in Wickham Bishop, but I was living in Chelmsford, I think, back in the time when I had the accident, some 17 years ago. I went into plant industry, started off as an apprentice, as a plant fitter, and learning all about everything from generators, welders, diesel fitting, so stripping engines. I always wanted to be electrical more than anything.
Oh, really?
I'd actually got an apprenticeship with London Underground when I left school.
Oh, wow.
And failed the medical. On the last bit I had to do was a medical, and I failed the medical being colourblind.
No way. Are you colourblind?
I'm colour deficient, because they say I can see all the colours, but then there's certain ones when you put them together in that bubble test, and I failed on that, and yeah, that was destroying, because I took the job I really wanted to do. But yeah, I carried on, got a job in a family-run plant hire company, and learnt my way through all the different aspects of fixing machinery. Basically, got myself into the electrical workshop where I wanted to be, and end up in charge in the electrical workshop, out and about doing breakdowns. And from there, I've done that for 10 years. I was with that company. And from that, I went and joined Coney Cranes, and then started looking after maintaining, repairing, installing overhead gantry cranes. Something I didn't know anything about at the time. It was a new lesson for me to learn. So I've done that, and I worked for them for just over 19 years.
Wow.
Ended up in management position there. The last 4.5, 5 years I was in management position. From that, I then went on to run a hire desk, a hire centres for access equipment, which came about through Coney Cranes, because the guy I used to hire all my stuff off, he approached me and said, "Would you like to come and run my London depots?" And I've done that for 7.5 years, and I gave that in, and now I do carbon management, looking after businesses with their carbon management plans, reduction plans. So another learning curve for me, just starting again, really.
100%. Yeah, I get that. So, just want to touch on this. Like, obviously, you say you're coloured. Is it deficient? You said
colour deficient. Yeah.
How did you manage to work on the electrical workshop? Because all of that's colours.
Yeah, because I can see all the colours.
Oh,
but what they said to me, obviously with London Underground, they have multi-strand, and you'll have many different colours on each strand, each wire, basically. They said it's too much of a risk. I did later on when I was 19. I went for a job as a fireman, and same again. Got the job, done all the interviews, done all the tests and everything. Got to the medical, failed again, being colourblind. And I actually argued that in the medical, and I said, "Well, how's that going to affect me to be a fireman?" They said, "Well, if you're in a room and it's on fire and there's gas bottles, you're not going to know the colour." And at which point I'd say, "Well, if I'm in a room filled with smoke and it's on fire, you're not going to see it anyway." But that was it. So yeah, that was another job I wanted to do. Quite glad I didn't do it in the end, because I went on to the crane engineer job, which I really enjoyed. So I've moved on from there.
What inspired you to get into the construction industry? Was it family or was it just a passion of yours?
No, my dad was a carpenter,
Okay.
joiner. I've always had a thing about fixing things from a young age and just working out how things work. So I think it's through that I went into the sort of engineering trade. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you ask anyone what they do when they're younger,
Yeah.
no one knows exactly. And I think it's all the way through your life. You can never know exactly what you want to do. But here we are.
Yeah. I think I can relate to that, to be fair. I didn't have many options. Like I'm an electrician, but I failed all my GCSEs.
Right.
So I didn't have many options available to me. So what I ended up doing was just going into construction. And getting into construction at like a really, really young age. I was like 15, 16 years old and went to college and studied to be an electrician. And, that's what is it, 16 years later, still a sparky. So it's weird. Once you become a trade, it never really leaves you, does it? It never really leaves you.
No. Well, I always enjoyed working as a youngster, sort of 13. I do paper rounds. I worked on Romford Market, setting up the stalls, putting them down. I'd work on the stalls during the day. Weekends, sometimes I'd go work with my sister's boyfriend doing electrical work, house bashing. So I was always doing something, always wanted to work. I couldn't wait to get out to work as soon as I left school. So.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I was also a paper boy when I was like similar age to you, and then worked in like an electrical wholesaler. I always found education wasn't quite right for me, so I was always looking at ways to make money. I remember like proper back in the day in secondary school, I used to. Oh, this is so cheeky. I used to get the sixth formers to buy me a pack of those 5 cookies. You get them, I think you used to get them for £1 in a Sainsbury's packet. And then I used to sell all of those cookies for 50p each. Like, proper little hustler when I... You got to be, well, you're in the Romford Market, you know all about it.
Romford Market is brilliant. It was really good stuff to have. I worked on a women's clothes store.
No way.
Yeah, so it was really good, especially being that young and all the girls coming there. And yeah, it was great. And all my mates worked there because I played rugby for Romford and Gideon Park. So all of our team basically worked on the market on different stalls. So we get different deals on different stalls. It was, it was good.
Quality.
It was good pay. It was good money. But at the age of sort of 14, 15, 16, we was earning good money. More than everyone with sort of normal Saturday jobs and that. Yeah.
I was brought up in Walthamstow. I don't know if you know it. So like proper East London. And then we used to walk down, it was Walthamstow High Street, and I think it was called Selborne Walk. I don't know why that's in my head, but I think it was called Selborne Walk. And we used to, like me and my mum used to walk down High Street on the weekend. You always hear pound a bowl, and you just, honestly, for some reason, you just can't get it out of your head. You just absolutely can't get it out of your head. It's such a community feeling there, isn't it? I don't know. I've always loved the market.
Yeah.
Always have.
Romford Market was massive back then. It was really big, always busy. No one could buy a stall or get a stall. People used to be offering like, the owner of our stall silly money to buy their pitch, but just couldn't get on there. It was good. All the fruit and bread stalls in there. It was
love it. It's the atmosphere as well, isn't it? It's wicked.
Yeah. But, not so good in the winter at 6 o'clock in the morning, just setting up the stall and putting all the seat on and whatever. But it's good. Rob,
I think we need to talk about this accident you had and how it happened, why it happened, and also I think something which would be cool to touch on is how can we prevent it happening ever again? I think those are really key things that we should get into.
Yeah, like all accidents, they're accidents, and you don't plan them. I was working on a really big crane in a power station in Essex. I won't tell you which power station because they probably won't be so happy.
Of course.
And I went to this crane on a Friday afternoon, but it's got a noisy wheel bearing. this crane picked up, I think it was about 200 ton it picked up. So it was a big old crane. It was a
That's a
Goliath
big crane.
crane. But it was on top of the tabletop on top of the building. So it was over 100 foot up in the air. I attended, and he wasn't an apprentice, he was a new starter come and work with us. So I was sort of showing him the ropes. But to get on the power station, obviously you had to have an induction. And at the time when I got there, they were still using the crane, although the wheel bearing was making a noise. They were still using it. So they said to me, "We're going to be a couple of hours." I said, "I'll go off and do some other stuff." So I said to the guy who was with me, "You can either go and do your induction, or you can go home." He decided he didn't want to sit and do the induction. He went home, and that probably saved my life this day, believe it or not. Anyway, so I come back a couple of hours later. The crane was finished with. Got me permit to go up on the crane, and I'd worked at this power station a lot, so they knew me. I knew the crane, but they'd changed one configuration on the crane, but they'd put another set of access on to get on top of the crane, on the crane bridge, and this is the access that I use. So if you can imagine, I'm on top of the tabletop, so I'm 6 stories up, walked up 6 flights of stairs, and then to get onto the crane on this side, there was 2 vertical ladders that went to a platform, so a steel platform, and then from there, which was the bit which I didn't realise at the time, there was then a stairway that then was attached to the side of the crane that then took you up to get you up on, so you had to go up, and then get on top of the crane. Well, I didn't need to get on top of the crane this particular time. I was looking at the wheels. So these set of wheels was probably 25, 30 foot off the floor. There were two ladders up. So I've climbed up on this platform, and I've got the wheels sort of,
that's huge.
Sort of knee height to me. And these wheels were probably 2.5, 3 foot tall each one, side steel wheels. And so I'm there. I've got remote control for this crane. And this crane, when you drive it, it slowly takes, so it's got an inverter drive on it. So it slowly take off, get up to full speed. You take your hand off, and it would slowly come to a stop to stop you swinging the load, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm up on this platform. It's only a small platform. Not realising this stairway that was attached to the crane, because the crane was yellow. The stairway that was attached to the crane was galvanised, silver. And the platform on is galvanised as well. Two and two hadn't registered with me that the platform and the stairway were separate. And I was driving the crane up and down, but nowhere near me to the wheels that was at the front end of the crane. As I'm driving up and down, I'm listening to the wheel bearings, and I've sort of decided which wheel had the bearing gone. And at that point, I thought, right, I know it's that wheel. I have to sort out how we're going to get the wheel out, and we'll come back and do this another day.
Okay.
At that point, I decided I'm going to drive it one more time just to make sure. So I'm crouched down, or knelt right down, listening to these wheels right near to the track. And as I drove it towards me, so that it was going to drive over the top of me, the stairway, which was behind me, come along, and I'm crouched down. And the stairway would then clear the handrail, which was on the platform I was on. It cleared it by about that much. As I drove it along for the last time, I'm bent down. All of a sudden, the stairway hit me back, down the bottom left-hand side of my back, while I'm crouched down. And as soon as it done that, I was then pinned against this handrail that it was going to go over.
Gotcha.
As I said before, the crane don't stop. I let go.
Yeah.
And as I let go, it was going. And I could feel all my bones breaking. It was like crunch breaking. And I actually swore. Can we swear on this?
Yeah, you absolutely can. You absolutely can.
I said, fuck it, I'm dead.
Cool.
And it carried on going, and I could just feel all my bones crunching. And at that point, it's making me cold thinking now. I'm sort of shivering now. But at that point, I must have passed out. Next thing I remember is I come to and I'm trapped. So this now has got my chest. It's right at the top of my shoulders. It's right up onto my neck. It's got me trapped in that sort of gap.
Oh.
Anyway, I've come to, and the first thing I could hear music, and then I see a picture of about that size, square, of my then wife, and then my 3 kids in smaller squares just coming off. It's really weird. 3 squares of my 3 kids coming off of it, and then I could see stars going round, and I could hear music, and I can't tell you what the music is because I could never remember it. Even like the next day, I couldn't remember the music, but I knew there was music. And at that point, I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm trapped. And I look down, I can see my helmet is right down on the tabletop, a long way down. I've got red blood, and it's like a thick jelly coming out of my mouth. I thought, I've got to drive this off me. I picked up I could just about grab the control. I picked up the control, and I think, is it forward or back? If I'd have gone forward, it would have took my head off. It was just sort of ripped me in half. And I drove it back, and as I'm driving it back, I'm screaming because it was breaking all the buttons going back the other way.
Oh.
And at that point, the train was off me. And this is what I said, the guy who left, I then believe if he had stayed, I had to stay up there, and he'd have gone to get help. At that point, I'm on my own, and I thought, I've got to get down. I tried to pick up my bag, but I'd broken the left clavicle, and at that point, I didn't know all the extreme injuries I had. But I had a total chest failure. My chest, most of my rib cage broken. I'd broken 2 bones in my neck, at the bottom of my neck. I had collapsed both my lungs, been punctured. Obviously, my ribs had gone through them, and I thought, I've got to get down. So I tried to pick up my tool bag, and that weighed about 20 kg, and that just collapsed. And I thought, I'll leave that. And then I climbed down the ladders.
You actually managed to climb down?
And I just climbed by leaning against the back rings, because I had the back rings on the ladders. Meant to get them, climbed down. I walked down 6 flights of stairs, like a zombie, basically, just sort of slowly, couldn't breathe. And I got to the bottom, and I'm walking across the power station towards the control room. And the guy come running along, and he said, "Rob, what's the matter? What have you done?" I couldn't talk because I couldn't breathe. And I sort of tried to gesture him up and crushed. Got to the back of my truck, the 4x4 truck, and the guy was panicking. He's running off trying to get a chair. By this time, I'd opened the back of my truck, and I'm trying to sit on the tailgate of my truck, and he's come back out. I couldn't sit because everything just collapsed. So I'm starting to hold my shoulders. So I'm trying to perch on the back of my truck. He's holding my shoulders, and they called an ambulance. It took about 25 minutes to get there because I couldn't find it. And as soon as the ambulance turned up, I knew I'll be fine. That's it, I'll be fine, man. Got in the ambulance, they give me morphine, and off they took me to hospital. And I remember coming out the back of the ambulance, being wheeled in, and I see my boss walking across the car park. And I just thought, I've let him down. I've really let him down. I've had this accident, I've let him down. And I went straight into the emergency room, and that's when they said to me, someone said, he's got total chest failure. And it was at that point another nurse said, I've never seen that before. And that was it. I thought, I'm in trouble. Yeah, it was mad. And then they was panicking. They were trying to get me lungs back up. So they cut holes in one side. They stuck their finger in. They put a tube in, trying to drain and get air back in there. Done that one. And then they said, we've got to do the other one. They cut on the other side. And then, obviously, I went in there. I went in a CT machine and whatever, but I couldn't lay down. I couldn't lay on me. But I do believe it's probably worse for other people, like my family and friends and that, who came there, because when you're going through that, the pain is the pain, isn't it? You don't. I think the thought of pain more than anything is worse than actually having the pain yourself. You're in it, so there's nothing to do about it.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously they're being told they don't know if I'm going to make it, that I'm going to make it through the night, whatever. When I was in intensive care for a few days, and then I finally got moved out of there to high dependency, and then into a ward. And every day the doctors would come round, and they was more concerned about my neck, where I've got these broken bones, C1 and T7, I can't remember what they were now. And they thought I was going to be paralysed. But every day I said, no, I could move my head, could move everything, just in pain, yeah. And then I was only in the hospital 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The football was starting, the World Cup was starting at the time. And I just said, I don't want to be in any longer. I just want to go home. I'll go home and I'll sit in front of the telly and watch it at home. So yeah, went home, and I started my recovery back at home. But yeah, as I say, I think it's worth for other people looking in than what it is for yourself. Yeah, it was a day, but I do believe if the guy had stayed with me, like I said before, I'd probably still be up there, and then they'd have to try and find a way of getting me off that platform, to lift me down, because to carry someone down that with the injuries and then get me down. So it's probably a blessing that I did send him home. Yeah.
Can I ask so many questions now? Firstly, what happened when you saw your manager? Why did you feel that you let him down? Like, what was going through your mind?
I felt I've messed up. I've messed up and I've let him down, let the company down, and that's just how I felt. It was, he was in tears, basically, when he seen me. Yeah, it was.
Was you guys quite close then?
I suppose so, yeah. Yeah, all of our team was quite close. But, crane engineers, there's not that many of them about. So it was quite a close industry, really. Yeah, it was a bit of a day. But it makes me feel weird now. And I remember telling that story, after that, and I couldn't really tell it. It was, it just makes you feel cold. It's weird. It is weird.
I just can't believe you somehow managed to climb down the ladders, the stairs.
That's adrenaline, isn't it? I suppose that's adrenaline.
There's adrenaline, and then there's that's unbelievable. That is absolutely unbelievable. Like, how do you cope now speaking about it? Because I'm assuming it will still, no matter how long it's been. You say 17 years, but I guess it doesn't matter how long it's been. But going back into that memory,
it's making me feel weird now. It does make me feel weird now. It's not good, and I know not long. It didn't really affect me for a few years, I suppose. Myself personally, I think it's like PTSD. I suppose it's sort of come along a lot longer after than what I thought. I just thought I survived it and that's it, it'll be fine. But I think it affects you later on. I remember used to watching films, which is weird. I watched a horror film, and at the point when someone's going to get hurt, something's going to happen to them, I used to get that same feeling back, and I could hear that machine, the crane, the grinding wheels. I could hear that noise. Yeah. But I know, up until that point, and I've said to you before, as a youngster, you feel like you're invincible. And you feel like you can work on these sites, you can do anything, and nothing's going to go wrong. And I think that's something that youngsters should take away. It can go wrong, and it can go catastrophe. I can't even say that, can I? It can go really wrong. So So if you're watching this and you work on sites with this machinery or whatever, just be careful. It's not worth taking chances. Not that I felt like I was taking a chance. I just thought I'd do my normal day-to-day job. So.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I think talking about the youth is unbelievably important. But before we touch on that, I'd like to know, what did your family feel at that stage? Because I recently did a podcast with a gentleman who fell, I think, 10 foot off a ladder. And then I actually heard his story, and then I heard his missus' story, because she also came on to the podcast after.
Right.
And honestly, that was the first time I realized how much an accident affects the family, like your ex-partner, for you and your children. And it's just how did it affect your family?
My kids were quite young at the time. So how old would it have been? So my eldest then would have been about 10, I suppose.
Okay.
So they wasn't that old. So I don't think they really knew what had happened. Didn't really understand what happened. My wife obviously had to care for me. She had to wipe my bum. I couldn't move in that way. So I suppose it must have affected her. And then, like my mum and dad, at the time of the accident that night, they was being told by the doctor they didn't know if I was going to survive it. So, they've got to go through that trauma, whereas I'm laying in a nice bed and I'm being looked after, full of morphine and drugged up to my eyes. So, it doesn't affect the person as much, I don't think.
Yeah, it's weird. And the more I talk to people, the more I actually understand that. an accident, it hugely affects the person, but it also affects everyone around them. And I think there's not enough emphasis on how much it affects the people around them.
Yeah.
Because it's heartbreaking, isn't it? It's like seeing the person you care and you love for so much in that vulnerable position. It must be heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I was lucky because, I have aches and pains, but it's not affected me physically apart from that, really. Considering the amount of injuries I've got. Yeah, so I was lucky, whereas families, you end up with a disability or even dying from it, that the effect that it has on their families is a lot worse.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on such a amazing point there, and that's young people, because they're the future. They're coming into the industry, and we don't want to scare them, but we want to make them aware of how to, one, best avoid it, and two, build awareness around these accidents do happen. We're surrounding ourselves around heavy duty materials, or even sometimes it's just a power tool, angle grinders. They're dangerous. Ultimately, they're super dangerous, and it's just helping, I guess, young people understand, how to build awareness around it.
Health and safety's come a long way, hasn't it? It's changed a lot from when I first started. Obviously, on cranes and that, we'd walk across crane bridges without harnesses.
Really?
Yeah, it was completely different then, and then it got tighter and tighter. You've got to wear your harness, and we'd wear harnesses that feel like it was in the way, wouldn't clip on. Still got your harness on, so it looked like you've got it, you were using it. But yeah, health and safety nowadays is so much tighter. I know back when it was getting tighter, we used to think it's a pain, and a lot of people think that health and safety is a pain. It can go over the top, but it's there to save lives. It's there to stop people getting injured, and you've got to adhere to it. So taking shortcuts or whatever, it's not worth it.
I think that's such a valid point as well. I think I'll put myself there, and I'll just say there's been loads of times where I've taken it. It could be a small shortcut, like you're changing a light switch and it's only got, a permanent feed and a switch line. So one of those cables ain't live. So you just, pop the switch off, you stick the cables in, C and L1, put it back. And I've done it endless times. But you think to yourself, just locating that fuse board would have taken 15 minutes, no longer.
Yeah. And it's that one time that you do take that shortcut.
Yeah.
Something catches you.
And that's it.
It was driving without a seatbelt, isn't it? One time you drive without a seatbelt, money going up the road, and someone hits you. It's an accident, isn't it? They're not playing. It is an accident. So.
Absolutely. And how are you? Obviously, it's been 17 years now, and it still obviously affects you. But how are you now? Like, after talking about it, injury wise, are you fully recovered?
Yeah, I would say I'm getting old now, so I've got aches and pains. It's not affecting me like what I would have expected. What the insurance companies and that said. You're going to end up. Well, I might still get it, like arthritis and aches and pains later in life, which I've not at the moment. So I'm lucky.
That is. Yeah. I think there's luck, and then there's the element of just pure determination. Like, I think in your story there's been several times where you could have just given up, but you chose to keep fighting and kept fighting. You kept fighting to your recovery. So wow, that's gosh, yeah. And how is your mental health?
It's amazing. Mental health after that, I think it affected me.
Really?
I don't think I'm as confident as what I used to be. I think I lost a lot of confidence from that. Obviously, I feel about anxiety. You forget watching stuff when people are about to get hurt or some sort of crash or whatever. That used to give me anxiety. So it does affect you. It affects your mental health, definitely.
How are you coping with that? Have you got coping mechanisms? Like, did you see a therapist or anything like that?
Yeah, I see a therapist at the time, which was probably too early because it probably didn't really come out for a couple of years after. But I see a therapist because I went through a claim because of what happened and how it was all set up. And I went for a claim against the power station, and I got sorted out with a therapist as well, was part of that, and also physio, whatever. But, I think the therapist at the time didn't do anything, because at the time I just thought, I'm here, I'm alive, I've sort of survived it.
Yeah.
It's not till years later that you realise, and it made me change the way I thought about work years later, that I was always used to work 7 days a week, do all the hours, be on call out, and sort of chasing the money all the time. Felt that, with a young family, that you felt you had to do that, and it starts to make you realise it's not about the money. If you're not here, what's the point? So slow down and spend more time with the family and that.
That's a really interesting point. I think a lot of people in the construction industry fall in that trap, and I think a part of it is because there's such a low salary. When I say low salary, I mean, companies offer a lower salary than usual and then push it up with overtime and call-outs.
Yeah, the incentive is to do the overtime to make your money. Which
exactly.
Ours was, call-out, we used to get payment for being on call, payment if you got called out. Yeah. And we'd go work sort of 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, might get home 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. If you're on call, it was just a pager back there. The pager might go off 10 o'clock at night, 11, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be straight up and straight. And I was living in Chelmsford in Essex there, and most of the time we'd going down to Sitting Bull to the paper mills. Sort of 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you've already done a day's work.
Yeah.
So that's not safe, driving. And I might have done that, 5 days straight. I used to work most weekends, 7 days most weeks. We used to do it. But because you're chasing money, because the money was good, weekends money was much better. Obviously, Sundays was double time. You've got a young family, you chase that money, but it's not about the money. You realise as you get older, it's more about the quality of time that you do spending the money and spending the time with people you love and that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so easy to fall into that trap as well, because they say, like, come Sunday you're getting double bubble, and you're out there, you want to work those Sundays, but what we forget is, so for me it was time and a half Saturday, double time Sunday, and double time plus day in lieu on bank holidays. So like, I would happily work those days, but you don't. I think, like, I used to forget, I'd work 5 days, then the weekend, then 5 days straight after. So that's 12 days straight. And that means your next recovery will be the next Saturday, Sunday, if you're not working it.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. But what's the balance?
I used to get the dates at weekend. If I was at home over weekend, I used to physically get the dates, thinking I couldn't be at home, I could be working. And I've got into so much of a habit of working 7 days that I didn't feel right being at home, which is really bad. And it took that accident to change all that, really.
Yeah. But I think there's a balance, isn't there? Like, you have to work hard. I think to succeed, you have to put the hours in, you have to work hard. You have to kind of also live below your means, but that's a complete different topic. But, you have to work hard, but there's a balance, isn't there? There's a balance between working hard and then working too much. But what would you say that balance is?
The people now don't know. The world's changed a lot now. The youngsters now, they see everything on the social media, on TikTok and Instagram of other youngsters with so much money and earning money. It looks easy. It's not real, most of it. And I think that youngsters get caught in that trap of thinking that it is achievable of earning that sort of money and having all the nice things. Youngsters now always have brand new cars. They do. They want to buy that house. They want to be off partying in Ibiza, and that is. Of course. It was. You do one or the other. When I was younger, you couldn't have it all. But I think most people want it all now, don't they? They see other people do it, or they think other people are doing it, and they want it all. So but you've got to work
such an interesting topic. Yeah, you've got to hustle hard. But you're right. Yeah. Like, go on. Sorry.
No, go on.
Sorry. Oh yeah, I was going to say, like, it's an interesting one, because you have got to work really hard, But I think you're right. Like the older you get, similar to you, I'm 31, and I've realised the older I get, actually, this is going to sound so soppy, and I don't really care if it does, but I love, and I mean I love, coming home and taking my dog for a walk. He's only little. He's only 1 year old. But I'll tell you something. Since having him at 8 weeks old to now, where he's 1 year old, so much has changed. He's a completely different dog, and I can't. And this is just talking about a dog, not even a child.
Yeah.
He's a complete different dog. He's got a complete different personality, and every single month he changes. And I think to myself, gosh, if I got him when I was 24, and I was working 7 days a week, I worked over 260 days straight, I would have missed. I've missed out on so much. I missed out on so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I missed a lot from my kids, and I do feel bad about it. It didn't go without. They got taken to Florida. I think we went 4 times or whatever. They went all over the place, Australia and stuff. So they had good holidays, but that was only 2-3 weeks out of the year that they spent that sort of time with me. Apart from that, I was working most of the time. So
yeah. No, honestly, yeah. I think there is more emphasis needs to be put on just taking that step back and having that quality time, because time flies.
Yeah.
I think in the construction industry, things move so quick. 1 minute you can be working in a job in Mayfair, the next minute you can be working a job in Romford, and the next minute you can end up in Manchester.
Yeah, well, construction, you're taking the work as well, aren't you?
Of course you are,
so
100%.
If you miss out on that, you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you? So you've got to take all the work.
Yeah, 100%. I do also think that for young people who are coming into the industry, I can't emphasize enough that it's a great industry to work in. It's fun. It's bubbly. You'll never meet the same person. Like, everyone's got a different character, and you get those people who are just absolutely bonkers, and everything they say is just like absolute waffle. But then you really get the serious engineers. Those people who are just like, everything they do is like art. You look back and go, oh wow, that's just incredible. It's a piece of art you've created there. And it's just so interesting that I do find the construction industry has everyone from every walk of life. It's a fantastic industry, but we've got to be so conscientious of accidents. We've got to be so conscientious of, chasing that money. And we've also got to realize we've got to take a break. We've just got to take a break. It's hard to drum that into people, because you touched on a really important topic there, social media. Everyone has it. It's free. It's accessible. But so many people are lying on there. They're not living their best life. They're not just showing us that life. Yeah, scary place.
Yeah. The best thing for me being in fixing the cranes and doing that was I worked in so many different industries. One day I could be in a television studios looking at the lighting hoist. Another day I could be in a paper mill, steel mill, nuclear power station, Thames Water, working in Thames Water. So many different places. Chocolate factories, I could be in Mars, in the chocolate factory there, or McVitie's, watching the chocolate biscuits go by. So it's such a good thing, because you get such a varied day's work. You're never seeing the same thing all the time. So that was good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, I do find it really interesting how the construction industry just consistently moves. I love it. I do love it. It's an industry that I still work in it. But yeah, it's one of those industries you just can't kind of get enough of. Rob, I can't believe it's 9 o'clock already. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. Really, really, really appreciate you taking the time just to be here and sharing your story. And it's a personal one as well.
No, when I spoke to you, obviously when we was out and we met, and anything I can do to help you with your venture you're doing, it's the good cause that you're doing to help people within the construction industry. And I appreciate that. So thank you. Anytime you need help.
No, I really appreciate it, Rob.
I'm here.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, Rob. Thanks so much. Cheers.
All right. Speak to you soon.
We've come to the end of today's podcast, and I want to take an opportunity to thank you so much for tuning in and giving us a listen. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We upload a new episode every other week. Also, if you need any support with your mental health, or you know a colleague, a friend, a family member who just needs a bit of help, make sure to check out onwardshift.com. I wish you a very, very amazing day and a superb week ahead.